A very good morning. We are going to have a very different approach because of time, and I'm afraid sometimes we make mention of certain things and people get afraid, but when you are in charge and the master of ceremony, you turn out to be doing things the other way around, but it's to make it go. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, who is right here with us, the chairperson of Grants Management Committee, the principal of the College of Education, and all our guests here today. We'll be starting the official way with the anthems when the First Lady comes and she starts to be right with us. But I've been advised that we can start with some items. And at the very start, I'm glad to invite the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, in company of the Principal of the College of Education and External Studies, Professor Masagazi Masaz Fred, and the Chairperson of Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo, to come and we start the exhibition, and thereafter we'll be back to officially start this with the anthems. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, we are inviting you to take a look at these exhibitions. And in the same vein, I'm inviting the PIs who are here to stand by to explain a few issues as the VC's team moves around. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, you're welcome. We'll be calling out every PI. For the SOPs, we'll be calling out the PI.
This was during the time when we had first lockdown. And we wanted to find out how parents are getting involved. And one of the things that came out very clearly from this study is the fact that the print materials that were sent by National Curriculum Development Center is the most accessible across the regions, in rural areas and peri-urban area as well. Online radio and TV were not accessible to many homes. But also in relation to radios and TV, the findings showed that the radio lessons are okay, but then the teachers are so fast, and so children do not pick all the things that are being said by the teachers. The issue is that when you teach in your class, you tend to teach a category, but when you're teaching in a national radio, then you're teaching across the board, and you need to slow down. So the issue of pacing of lesson was a problem. Lack of TV was a problem. And also the schedules of learning was not given to the learners, and so many of them were accessing this content by chance. And I'm glad that during the second lockdown, actually the ministry now changed and gave a schedule in the papers. So our suggestions are around how do you improve this, train the teachers, and then have co-teaching so that you have two people at the same time teaching. In terms of materials, delivery should be through the Ministry of Education to the district offices instead of the political wing of government. And also the fact that parents need better support in terms of training. So Minister of Education and Minister of Gender needs to get together to create awareness amongst the parents to improve learning at home. Thank you.
I think Minister Kachinda, please. The Minister will need to hear this. The print media was essential. Please, can you come on? She's going to talk about. Good morning. We are evaluating the measures which had been taken by Ministry of Education to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, because they printed materials and then saturated them. So what we did was to look at the accessibility of the materials. Did the material get where they are supposed to be getting? The dynamics, that is the quality of the materials, and then how the participants perceived the materials they had received. We found that the material that were supplied were quite insufficient. There was inadequate supervision, both LOC and the districts, because they are not aware of what was taking place. We were hardly included. And although the materials had been meant for revision, what was being covered in the material had not been studied in classes. So they couldn't revise what they hadn't covered originally. And good enough, the parents and learners appreciated this intervention, that it was timely, at least it bridged a gap which was there. The print material and radio and TV were generally poor according to the parents and then the teachers we inquired from. A large percentage of the learners did not understand what was being covered in the materials that were saturated. So we recommended that, back then that was in the first lockdown, we recommend that there should be capacity building for both those who are managing the process, from the district officials, the teachers who are around, the LOCs, the community, so that it's a communal activity. Also, the use of innovative pedagogy should help in enhancing what is being done, and using e-learning would be very useful, although the penetration in the country is somehow limited. And we think that sensitizing the stakeholders would have helped to improve the absorption and then the use and comprehension of the materials. The material could be improved so that they rhyme with the syllabi and the curriculum, so that the uptake from the students could be much better. That's what we covered in this project.
Thank you so much. On top of this, okay, sure. It's going to fall. So.
The other one is done.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Principal, Vice Chancellor, you're most welcome, and the Chair, RIF. So this project was about teacher training and job market demands. So we discovered that teachers were just disseminating knowledge or teaching knowledge in their specific subjects. So what we set out to do was to find out, do they also tackle the skills which are very important? The most important thing is that, for example, in chemistry, we found out that in the curriculum of O-level, ordinary level, they were teaching about soap making, liquid soap, and these solid soaps. But at the end of the O-level, do students gain these skills? Can they make soap? So we found out that they couldn't. So when we came to the results, we found out that the university content in some subject areas was not aligned to the secondary school curriculum. And also we found out that teachers did not emphasize skills and attitude attitudes, but they used to emphasize knowledge, because even in examinations, this is what was emphasized. So what we did was to come up with a teacher education handbook, which handbook we believe will help to harmonize teacher education in the country, so that the teachers we train, when they go down to secondary schools, they can disseminate knowledge, they can disseminate skills, and the students at whatever level they drop out of school, or even if they complete, they're able to gain skills and knowledge. So basically, the project was about that.
Thank you so much, dear VC and Chairperson GMC and the Principal. This project is about enhancing behavior change for border riders in Uganda using mobile learning. It is within the theme of community education, which is one of the mandates of the College of Education and External Studies. So we realize that over 70% of the youth in Uganda are riding borders, but the way they do it is actually so problematic, so chaotic. They have a lot of risk behaviors in terms of health. They don't save money and so on. So we wanted to create an education solution to these young men who are quite majority and employed in this sector, so that through this education initiative or solution, we would be able to teach them or to train them in behavior change in various aspects. We started by choosing 3 major aspects, because when we carried out the research, some preliminary research, we found out that they have challenges to do with road use, and they have challenges also to do with business savings and so on, and then also challenges to do with the health. So we designed a solution, a mobile learning solution, which employs mobile devices, mobile phones, because we could not be able to get these border riders in a class. So we had to use a solution that reaches out to them. And so we designed a mobile learning solution, which we called the Positive Behavior Change Mobile Learning Environment, and had this environment, piloted this environment with the border riders on 3 modules: a module on entrepreneurship, a module on health living, and a module on safe driving. And when we piloted this, we found out that actually these young men who are riding motorcycles yearn for education, but they don't have time to go for education, and therefore when we bring such kind of innovation, they embrace them, and they indeed embrace them. And we evaluated the behaviors around those 3 aspects, and we found that there was a positive behavior change, especially in entrepreneurship, safe driving, and health living. So this research of ours we are working hand in hand with the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Ministry of Gender and Labour Social Development. So some of the policy issues that the Ministry of Works and Vision of the border regulation, and also the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development is also using our findings to see how they can to revise the safety at work regulations. And this positive behavior learning environment is actually still containing the border participants are still using it, and they are highly benefiting from it because they have asked us also to add some other modules like English language, because they take different customers, basic literacy, mathematics. So we are adding all these modules on this positive behavior change mobile learning environment. Thank you. Yes, we have submitted our proposal, and hopefully we will go through, and then we scale it up because the intervention was originally in 2 regions. That was Eastern region in Namayingo and then the Central region in Wakiso. So we feel that if we scale it up, it will benefit more border riders because they have also asked for that.
Question. You say 70%
Oh.
male youth, 15-35.
Yes.
Is this not a long estimate?
It is research according to Wanume, who carried out this census of the border people, according to that research. But okay. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
So this is an ongoing project. It is called Inclusive Care and Support for Early Childhood Development Framework, ICHED project. We discovered that many nursery children, very early in the morning, are forced to wake up at around 5, move the whole place, and by the time they reach school, they're already tired and are forced to study things which are beyond their understanding and brain. And the evening, they are given homework and at the same time take long in transport. So we came up with a project to examine their experiences on the way, the children's experiences on the way, to and from school, and what social, emotional impact they undergo. The intention of the project is to create friendly strategies which can be used by the drivers of school vans, the caretakers, and those who teach them on how to make the children happy. And as the picture suggests, one child is crying, and how do we return a smile back to them? So the uniqueness of this project is linking children experiences at home, school, and transport to better performance at early childhood. We also noted that many children are tortured at home because most of us parents are very busy at work. We are never with them. We leave them with maids. And these maids, in most cases, are not trained on how best to manage them. So it is an ongoing project. We are developing a transport toolkit which will be used by the drivers, the teachers, and those who manage children on their way to and from school. We are also coming out with a community-based identification toolkit on how to know whether children are being supported or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our project is about use of ICT to promote quality science education in resource-constrained secondary schools in central Uganda. We realize that many schools lack instructional resources to teach science. So we came up with this idea of using ICT, and in this case, ICT, we picked on simulations. And the innovative bit of it was we are trying out to teach science, especially practical science, biology, chemistry, and physics at all level, and we picked on senior 2 using simulations, but in this case, we are using a smart TV because normally simulations are simulated using internet, but since we are going to schools which are resource constrained, they don't have internet, and what we are doing, we are using a smart TV in class to teach practical science, because we realize that many schools have these TV sets, but they are in staff room for recreation. Now we want to take this TV to class so that teachers can use these smart TVs to teach science in areas where we don't have instructional resources. We went to 4 schools, one in Chiboga, one in Gomba, another one in Ilakai, and another one in Chotera. We did the preliminary activities. We trained teachers on how to integrate simulations in the topics we picked with the teachers to teach these those concepts. We did 3 workshops with the teachers, but because of COVID, we could not access learners. We are waiting for January so that we can go to schools so that teachers can start teaching using the materials we have developed, and then we assess their understanding before and after teachers have taught. That's how far we have gone. Thank you very much.
Any question from the press? Yes, Dr. Chikon, please.
Thank you so much, dear Principal, the Vice Chancellor, and the Chair of Grants Management Committee. Our project is enhancing learning achievements among students in seed secondary schools in Uganda. Seed secondary schools are those specific project which was started by the ministry and more importantly by the Honorable Minister, First Lady. And our project was set to establish how the official curriculum is actualized in seed secondary schools. And objective number 2 was to establish how seed secondary schools facilitated the development of 21st century skills among learners, because we want to do away from the normal system of cram work so that you can build an all-round student or learner. 3 was to analyze the extent to which the learners in seed secondary schools are prepared for further studies and for the world of work. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, the methodology, I'm not going to take you through that because it may be long. The study adopted the concurrent mixed approach, but I want to come down here to the project results or the findings. And each objective, we aligned the findings depending on the objective which we have. Objective number 1, how the official curriculum is actualized in seed secondary schools. We found out that the availability and access and use of the NCDC syllabus in secondary schools is 91.3%. And the teachers accessed it at 91.8%. And we also found out that drafting of lesson plans for lessons taught, school administrator noted, if you ask me of the deputy or the deputy, I will tell you that it is almost practically impossible for these teachers to make lesson plans. So what we discovered in these seed secondary schools, we need to be emphatic on the issue of preparing to teach. So that lacks because the administrators mentioned it clearly that there are no lesson plans prepared. And teachers' adherence to the school timetable was 98%. And we also found out that the teachers' and students' punctuality ran down to 36.5. And student lessons attendance was not good at all. I think because of time, thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. the First Lady and Minister of Education, Honorable Mama Janeti Kataha Museveni, the Chairperson of Council, Mrs. Lorna Magara, the Vice Chancellor of MAK-RIF University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Chairperson of Grants Management Committee and Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo, the Principal of the College of Education and External Studies, Professor Masagas Masazi, ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. We want to welcome you to this very important exhibition, open day, but we want to start it officially as Mama is with us by inviting the Invest Times to take us through the national and East African as well as MAK-RIF anthems. Events Times. Shall we all rise up? Event Times.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. MAK-RIF, MAK-RIF, we build for the future, the great MAK-RIF, great, great and mighty the walls around thee, great, great and mighty the
Thank you very much. You can take your seats now. Our guest of honor, Mama Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni. We are so excited to have you today in this new normal where we are observing the SOPs. And most especially where we know that you are one of us. And the College of Education is having its open day for displaying what the eminent researchers have done. And this fits very well within the national development goals of Uganda. Mama Janet, we are so happy that you've been able to support us, and more especially with the RIF, which is bringing up another generation of researchers. And before I take the opportunity to invite the next speaker, I just want to let you know that the chairperson of council is with us. And I also want to note that the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, is also here in company of the chairperson of Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo. And the principal of the College of Education is with us right here. Minus those, I want to mention that this room is full of academia, and the deputy principal of the college, Professor Birevu, sometimes people now are turning to call him Mr. Border Man in education. He's with us. The deans, directors of institutions and centers from the School of Education and across are all with us here, together with eminent researchers. Mama, now I want to take this opportunity to move into the program and invite Professor Masagazi Masazi, the principal of the College of Education and External Studies, to come and he give his remarks. Professor Masagazi. I also want to mention, as Professor comes, that the University Secretary, we've been joined by the University Secretary, Mr. Chiranda Yusuf. You're also welcome, Professor.
The First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education, the Chairperson of the University Council, the Vice Chancellor, the Chairperson, Grants Management Committee, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the College of Education and External Studies, I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to Mama Janet Kataha Museveni for accepting to grace the MAK-RIF Research and Innovation Fund, College of Education and External Studies Open Day. This is an important day in many ways. First, we are proving our capacity as a college in contributing to national development through posing questions on education issues and providing answers to some of these issues. Second, we are profoundly honored to host the First Lady, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, who is also the Honorable Minister of Education and Sports. Third, and most gratifying, we host you, Mama Janet, as our alumni of the College of Education and External Studies. Fourth, we host you, Honorable Minister, at this memorable event, whose outputs have been fully funded by the government of Uganda through the MAK-RIF University Research and Innovation Fund. Thank you so much, our chief guest. Our chief guest, the College of Education and External Studies comprises of 3 schools: the School of Education, the School of Distance and Lifelong Learning, and the East African School of Higher Educational Studies and Development, with 3 mandates of teacher education, including science and vocational teacher education, early childhood education and development, open and distance education and lifelong learning, including adult education and e-learning, and higher education, including leadership and management, pedagogy, research and innovation, and the tertiary education subsector. The mandates are responsive to the Sustainable Development Goals, the Uganda Vision 20, and the National Development Plan 3 2020-25. Our chief guest, as MAK-RIF University celebrates 100 years of its service and great contribution to the world, the College of Education and External Studies has commenced with RIF Open Day event. This is one of the many activities planned by the college. In the same month, there are other activities which we are going to share with you, our chief guest. We are also organizing a reunion day for the College of Education and External Studies alumni. We are hopeful that our chief guest will join us. I wish to report that the projects that we will be showcasing today through the exhibition and physical presentation are part of the 36 projects funded by the government of Uganda through MAK-RIF to find innovative solutions to the problems affecting the respective government sectors and society at large. Mama, this timely government intervention coincided with the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, which has affected several sectors, but more profoundly the education sector. From the research, we note that we are not likely to go back to the pre-COVID-19 school setting, but rather will innovatively reimagine the educational system with new ways of action in the area of curriculum, instructional materials, assessment, teacher preparations, retooling of teachers, leadership development for the post-COVID-19 education system. Honorable Minister, the findings from the research and innovations in the education we are about to showcase dwelt on thematic issues which you have carefully guided the sector and the society on. The themes include early childhood education development, science and technical education, teacher education, open distance and e-learning, and higher education. The education researchers have generated evidence-based research interventions in the delivery of curriculum in risk environments. These evidence-based interventions highlight some of the steps that the education sector can gradually take to build a resilient and reimagined Uganda education system that will thrive in the post-COVID-19 pandemic era. Our hope is to scale up the interventions for wider uptake, to inform policy and actual practice of the caregivers, teachers, and instructors in the pre-primary, primary, secondary, and the tertiary and vocational education subsectors. All the research projects were conducted through a multi-sectoral and a multi-stakeholder approach involving our mother ministry, the Ministry of Education and Sports, the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, the National Planning Authority, the National Council for Higher Education, the National Curriculum Development Center, Patriotism Secretariat, higher educational institutions, schools, and private sector, among others. Such strategic partnership ensured that the College of Education and External Studies produces research that is more relevant to the needs of society and the education sector. Before you, Honorable Minister, allow me once again to congratulate my colleagues, the principal investigators and their teams, and we thank very sincerely our stakeholders for the good partnership. Our dear chief guest, in the line with the vision and mission of Makerere University to become a research-led university in the period 2020-2030, the College of Education and External Studies has repositioned as a research-led college that will continually contribute solutions to the current emergent challenges facing all levels of education. College of Education purposes to be a one-stop center of education research, policy, and practice interventions. Through you, Honorable Minister, we thank the government of Uganda for the support through Makerere Research and Innovations Fund that has enabled us as the college to think out of the box and become more relevant to the education sector through research. As the College of Education and External Studies, we pledge to continue providing innovative education solutions through the establishment of Makerere University Institute of Teacher Education Research, which will mainstream and further institutionalize cutting-edge research on teacher education in Uganda and beyond. Honorable Minister, allow us to meet you physically one of these days to share our proposals and other issues concerning the College of Education. I would like to thank the university management, the University Council led by Chairperson Mrs. Rona Magala, the university management led by the Vice Chancellor Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Chairperson Makerere University Research and Innovations Fund, Professor William Bazeo, for ensuring that our research capacity in education is built. Thank you so much, the government of Uganda, for funding research and innovations through the MAK-RIF. And today, the College Open Day is a testimony of the government funding. Distinguished stakeholders present and those attending virtually, please join me in applauding Government of Uganda led by His Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Thank you very much, His Excellency. Dear Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni, we have over 1,000 participants on this webinar and our social media platforms, and indeed, the CEES, the College of Education and External Studies fraternity, including 120 academic staff, 5,000 students, and other stakeholders following this important event. As a principal, this is a memorable day when the college hosts you, not as chief guest, but as our alumni. We are indeed grateful. We look forward to the opportunity, as we promised, to share more of our research-based initiatives with you. I I thank you in advance for accepting to visit our college at the opportune time. At that time, Mama, we shall share more research works, challenges we go through, and our proposal to improve the education system. Honorable Minister, as I indicated earlier, we have selected 6 physical presenters for today to make the presentation, and the rest are being exhibited here. I thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Masagazi. And I think now we've started it, and it's the College of Education on the move. I'm not going to spend any more minutes, but I have the single honor of inviting the chairperson of the Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo, to come and give your remarks. Professor Bazeo, you're welcome.
Our guest of honor, the First Lady, Honorable Janet Kata Museveni, our dear Minister, our Chair of Council, Mrs. Rona Magara, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Nawangwe, University Secretary and senior members of management who are here, our Principal from the College of Education and External Studies and your team, fellow members of the Grants Management Committee that are present and those online, members of staff that are here and those online, and the students that are following online, ladies and gentlemen. I had planned to say certain things, but the principal, I think when he was seated near me, he copied from my paper and then he said them. But nevertheless, I will say what he didn't copy. Ladies and gentlemen, MAK-RIF University celebrates innovations, celebrates research. But MAK-RIF University has been here for 100 years. We have had ministers come and go. But we have had a minister who came and inspired MAK-RIF to become a research-led university. She's here, and I want to thank you, Honorable Minister, for causing change, real change in MAK-RIF University. Many people would say MAK-RIF has changed, MAK-RIF has improved, but the leadership matters. So we responded to your call, and here we are to show the fruits of what you inspired us to do. And we sincerely thank you. You appointed one member of council who became the chair. And the chair came with a vision to support what you believed in. As much as we talk about MAK-RIF University strategic plan, we talked about MAK-RIF becoming a university, a research-led university some time ago, but it was not implemented. So I want to thank the chair council when she came in and found this on the table and said, this is what Mama wants, and we went with it and we ran with it. And on top of that, the minister facilitated in these negotiations to get resources. Some of us may not know how resources are distributed. If the minister does not lobby enough, you cannot get what you want. So I want to thank you again for appointing a chair council, chair, the Mrs. Rona Magara, who ran with your vision, and you supported us there to make sure that we get enough resources for research. And therefore, we celebrate this by celebrating you. I want to thank the Vice Chancellor. I think many people forget that the Vice Chancellor is the CEO. And if a company has a CEO who does not listen to the supervisors and implement, the company cannot move forward. So I want to thank the Vice Chancellor for taking up the mantle. It has been very difficult. Nobody should say where we are has been an easy ride. Getting MAK-RIF to have this research come out with the findings that help government and respond to the national development goals is not easy. I want to thank you, Professor Nawangwe. I want to thank my colleagues, the principals, the professors, lecturers, and so on. Many institutions have access to resources, but they do not do the right thing. But the professors that I've seen, Madam Minister, before you came on, we were going through the projects, and I hope you listened to some of them. They are very impressive, and they have an impact that they will cause to this country. I want to thank my colleagues and congratulate the principal and your team for doing a great job. During this COVID, I want to say that the results that we have found, Madam Minister, you will know, or they have even sent it to you, that you have over and over talked on TV about teaching materials. You'll now be glad to hear that the greatest impact was from what you asked for. Those were the distributed materials, and many people accessed them. These are the findings that are available now. What else did you want? The students are in the villages, but they have accessed what the minister advocated for, and now we have evidence to show, even the policymakers in the parliament, to know that actually what the ministry did was the right thing. Thank you very much. Through your funding, Madam Minister, we have at MAK-RIF now, and I'm sure the Vice Chancellor will present it better, we have a total of 710 projects running, and if you gave one project at least 3 university staff, you have more than 2,000 members of the academia involved in research funded by our own government, and we want to thank you. Of those 710, 36 are from this distinguished college, where I have learned that you are the alumni there, but please do not influence us to give them the big worm. And they have also benefited from these 4.4 billion Ugandan shillings to support these projects. I want to talk about one project that I had, which I think is very important and very useful for this nation, the Border project. Many people have talked about border, riding badly and so on. I want to congratulate Professor Muyinda. This is a study that we need to take to scare the whole country on TVs and radio, because the borders are more than willing to learn, and they are willing to change, and they are willing to do things that could actually improve the transport system in this country. With those few words, because there are many presenters and we are running out of time, I'd like once again to thank you, Honorable Minister, for joining us, for actually gracing this occasion. We know how busy you are, and these are difficult times, but for you to have spared the whole day, the whole morning for MAK-RIF University, and to thank our Chair of Council for always being with us and making sure that she invites the right people to come and preside, because without her support, maybe we would have missed the minister joining us. Thank you very much, and I wish you well, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Vazio. And I think as the College of Education, you know we have one of our own, Mama. So why don't we clap again for that big call? You're going to reap big because we know Mama has had the voice. At this juncture, Honorable Minister, Mama Janet, I want to invite Professor Anthony Mugaga, who is going to take through the briefs of these different projects. But kindly, I just want to ask him, because we started a bit like you understood, to cut down his presentation by only 5 minutes, Professor Mugaga. We're just cutting 5 minutes off the 20. You're going to use 15. Thank you.
The First Lady, Honorable Janet Museveni, Chair Council, Madame Rona Magara, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Bernard Nawangwe, the Chairperson, Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo, the University Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I am Professor Anthony Mugaga, the Acting Director, Institute of Educational Research. Chinua Achebe said, a toad does not walk or jump in the day without a reason. When the College of Education comes out to speak, it is a giant speaking. Why? It was the first institution in MAK-RIF University to be established in 1922 as a technical college. So the giant Prof. VC is talking. The ICT man has curtailed me. The College of Education is home, as I've said, to one of the oldest institutions in the land, and is home to the very first graduate teacher training institution in East and Central Africa. It has done a lot, and in the past, this institution had some of the best brains, the likes of Professor Adonio Tiberondwa, Professor Chiti, Wandira Kazibwe, Wandira Asavio, Professor Polot, Sente Zakajubi, and those were in the last millennium. For us, in the current millennium, honorable guest, we are extremely happy that we are beginning the next millennium showcasing what the College of Education can do. The college has a quadruple mandate: teacher education, higher education pedagogy, leadership and innovations, adult, community and continuous education, open, distance and e-learning. And in line with MAK's vision and mission, we are committed to providing transformative and innovative teaching and learning, research and services response to dynamic national and global issues. As I've said, we are the oldest around, and want to report that we receive a lot of support for University Council, management, and also we note that our VC is extremely very accessible. Unlike other high-ranking civil servants who you have to make an appointment at any one moment. If you want to enter Professor Nawangwe's office, you are free with no appointment. The College of Education has the highest number of PhDs in all education disciplines in Uganda and East Africa, and is a hub for science education, STEM, in Uganda. And it's also a hub for education technologies, pedagogy in Uganda, and that's why almost all institutions in Uganda have benchmarked on how to use online learning from us. As I've noted, we have a number of prominent persons like Professor Adonias Tiberondwa, Julius Nyerere is our alumni, and all those. Today, the college is still blessed with a number of prominent alumni and alumni. For example, the chief guest, chair council, and over 80% of the top brass in the Ministry of Education, including the commissioners and the state ministers, are all a product of CEES. We also have the government commitment to support teacher education and education in search, as we've seen. So our theme for the day is education research for sustainable development. But what is sustainable development? This is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And at the global level, they have come out with 17 sustainable development goals. But for us, we are more concerned with the fourth, which is achieving inclusive and quality education for all. However, there are some threats to this sustainable development, and these emanate from the political, social, and economic terrain. Mainly they could be due to political, social, and economic instability. Now, in the case of Uganda, we have a number of threats, Honorable Minister. The most recent one has been the child mothers. As seen, we have children out of school. We have the issue of homeschooling and the role of parents in education of their children. And of course, we know that at one time, parents had run away from that noble role, and it's only COVID, by bad luck, has brought them to do that work. And also, we have also ICT in the hands of children. What is the moral implication of children accessing mature situations? We have also a threat of special needs education and psychosocial support. How have these performed during the COVID-19? We also have the challenge of adult and informal education. How has it performed during moments of pandemic? Then we also have the threat of graduate employability. How innovative are they? Ma'am, I've used a funny picture from children mimicking a band. Now, if these small children in a village can mimic a band, what of our graduates? The threat of a constrained early childhood education and care, children crying, and then the rural child. How shall we manage this rural child whose facilities are a little bit constrained? Now, after those threats, what are our national education priorities? Mama, you will note that the NRM 21-26 manifesto clearly gives us certain priorities. For example, patriotism. And I'm happy to note that I, who is speaking, I'm the national coordinator for all universities in Uganda for patriotism, which is, I think, a vote of confidence in MAK-RIF to have one of their own coordinating patriotism for the whole country. We have the issue of Pan-Africanism. It is unfortunate our graduate international student ratio as a college has gone down, but I know in the next millennium we are going to attract more as it was in the times of Nyerere. Then education for sustainable development, as the government put up or incepted certain policies like UPE, USE, UPOLET, and then the Vision 2040. And not forgetting NDP3, and here we pick out chapter 18 on human capital development. And as teachers, that is our trade. Community mobilization and mindset, still from NDP3, chapter 16. And I think as teachers, we shall play a bigger role in mobilizing the masses to support government policy and also to have a clear mindset, knowing that we are the ones who deal with the youth, and the youth in most cases are the causes of mayhem for their countries and in STEM. We also as a core of the NRM manifesto is the securing the future for the next generation. And I think it is us teachers to do that, support science, vocational and technical education, and support health education in schools. Now, this one has become very crucial during COVID, where we noted that many of our teacher training institutions do not train teachers to manage health. We don't have many health training programs, and I think we are going to do that, as we shall see in the various projects. So it transformed Uganda from a peasant to a modern country within the next 30 years is in need a role of a teacher. And then support for inclusive education and sustainable development for Africa, which is Agenda 2063. Now, at CEES, we do a lot of research. And our strategic direction is in line with the MAK-RIF strategic direction, which is a research-led university. And here, we have things like educational legal policy framework, for example, the national teacher policy, which Mama, you incepted as a minister, which is very, very good. And I'm very sure we shall play a bigger role in sensitizing the teachers and teaching them about this national policy. Pedagogical and curriculum innovations in Uganda, thematic curriculum, the new lower secondary, and fortunately, most of our projects emanate from this. We have natural and artificial shocks in education. For example, floods. Remember, we had landslides in Bududa, wars and epidemics, and pandemics. And at one time, we didn't have the techniques of managing these education during these crisis moments. But during this time, with support from MAK-RIF, we've come out with many projects which will help us manage learning during natural and artificial shocks. Higher education training, research, innovation, and leadership, and then gender issues in education in Uganda. And other research themes at CEES are education, poverty, and national development, language and social anthropology, adult, community, and continuous education, distance, remote, and e-learning. And of greater importance to government is citizens' education. Human rights, patriotism in Ugandan schools, as drawn from the NRM Manifesto 2021. Mama, why do I say this is very, very, very important? At one time, we had programs like Mchaka Mchaka, patriotic programs, but these were weaned away, but I think by unfortunate politicians. But I think if we bring these back in the school setup, then I'm very sure we shall be very comfortable. Now, we have a number of projects at CEES, and we have skewed them in line with the national priorities of government and also the themes in the college. And the first theme is patriotism, community mobilization, and mindset change, drawn from NDP 3, Chapter 16, and NRM Manifesto 2021-2026. And the first project at that was enhancing capacity for integration of patriotism in the childhood teacher training institutions in Uganda by Dr. Sebowa. We had another one, enhancing behavioral change of border riders in Uganda using mobile learning by Professor Paul Birevu. This one is very important, knowing very well that most of the riots and most of the mayhem, not forgetting that the recent case of persons who are shooting a general were riding a border. And also we know that borders are the ones which transport our children to nursery schools and other schools. So it is very important that we, in order to sustain development and to have a better society, these need to be well rolled out. The other is pedagogy and education practice. And under this, we have projects like innovations in task-based syllabi for Kiswahili tutors in primary teacher training colleges, knowing very well that His Excellency's heart is at the thought of Pan-Africanism and East African integration. And knowing very well that many of us in Uganda, there is a very unfortunate proverb that Kiswahili was born in Tanzania, it grew up in Kenya, and died in Uganda. I'm very sure with such a project, which is centered on Kiswahili, the college will play a bigger role in enhancing integration of East Africa. The other one is mapping Makerere University capacity to mainstream electronic learning in university education by Dr. Walimbwa, and then using blended learning to fast-track capacity development for teachers, implementing the lower secondary school curriculum. Mama, this one is also a very important project because we know that the secondary school lower curriculum was rolled out, but it had challenges. Now we are coming out as a college to ensure that it succeeds. The other one is science, education, and sustainable development. In response to SDG 4 and NDP 3, chapter 18. And the projects are these are increasing access to inclusive and quality business, technical education and training through open distance and e-learning. And I think this one talks and promotes what His Excellency has been talking about. Promoting science education, but this time using open distance and e-learning by Dr. Jamia Mayanja. And then the other one is interdisciplinary enhancement of science education in rural Uganda using primary education thematic curriculum by Professor Usura. It's another very important project which also talks to the NRM manifesto. And in response to educational shocks, COVID-19 learning from home, parental involvement of primary school going children by Associate Professor Ezati, mitigating and managing COVID-19 impact of Uganda's education system by Professor Masagazi, and enhancing community learning to rural context during COVID-19 lockdown by Dr. Tombaloja. And then we also have projects on special needs and inclusive education, unlocking the potential for enhanced teaching and learning of visually impaired university students, the role of assistive technologies. The challenge has been that during COVID, how do we manage learners who are challenged? The other one is building inclusive learning environments for marginalized societies in Uganda. And so we have inclusive care and support for early childhood development by Mugaga, and then higher education pedagogy and leadership innovation by Professor Bisaso, pedagogical leadership for academic staff in higher education institutions to enhance graduate work readiness and transition to work, and then equity to access quality education. These ones look at how best we can manage students or children in rural areas. Now, emerging issues. There is an apparent increasing disparity between rural and urban areas, and the police point out this. There is need to subsidize rural e-learning facilities and establish rural e-learning centers and online libraries for rural children. They also need, there has emerged cases of child mothers. There is a need to protect the child mothers by providing them with psychosocial support to avoid the challenge. Then there is another issue which is emerging from our projects: use of textbooks and e-learning resources tailored to rural schools, and reintroduction of health education in teacher training institutions, not forgetting the parent involvement, and also need for innovative entrepreneurship, critical thinking, and training in emotional intelligence by the teachers. In as much as we are complaining of online learning, other countries are talking of robotic pedagogy. And the College of Education is willing to spearhead this with your support. We have other projects which we have secured from other donors, and we've secured this project because of the training for MAK-RIF. MAK-RIF does not only give us the money, it also trains us in writing projects, and we thank Professor Bazeyo and his team for that. As I conclude, the College of Education is one of the largest colleges at Makerere with close to 4,000 students. And any research we carry out makes a great impact to the entire education system and Uganda's economy. We pray we get more avenues to showcase our research outputs. We also note, on a selfish note, that the College of Education is still constrained. It needs more ICT facilities, terms of computers, laptops, and also to know that when we are carrying out research during COVID, many of us were constrained in our homes because we never had personal college vehicles. And if you want to carry out research, you have to borrow from another college. Mama and Chair Council, we feel embarrassed that as a college which has the biggest per capita visible top leadership in the ministry, we don't have a bus, we don't have college trucks. I know as we plan to celebrate 100 years, Mama will indeed be a mother to the college and look into some of these things like more ICTs, a bus for field work. And the principal is looking at me. He's the only principal in the whole university who has no principal's car. Thank you very much as we build for the future. Thank you very much. And we thank you for gracing our day.
Thank you very much, Professor Mugaga. And all these calls anyway, you know the actions. Thank you for being timely. And now we want to move on straight to the presenters. And I want to call Miss Alice Ndida together with Mr. Philemon Mukisa to take us through the resilient communities for quality primary education in Uganda. But I trust these are very good timekeepers and we're going to stay long anyway. Thank you.
The First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, the Chair, University Council, MAK-RIF University, the Vice Chancellor, MAK-RIF University, the Chairperson, Grants Management Committee, and all the members of management here, ladies and gentlemen on call, Mrs. Alice Nancha Ndide was the principal investigator Mrs. Ndide was the principal investigator for this project, Resilient Communities for Quality Primary Education in Uganda. She's here. She was not feeling very well, and she asked me, because she mentored me, to make this presentation. My name is Philemon Chirunda Mukisa, and I acted as the co-PI or co-principal investigator for this project. Mrs. Ndide, would you kindly rise up? When the NRM government introduced the universal primary education, very many parents abdicated their roles for their children in school. And because of this, we experienced poor performance in primary schools around the country. And one of the reasons was because the parents were not involved in the children's education. The Department for International Development supported the Department of Adult and Community Education in 2009 to 2012 to strengthen parental involvement and the community involvement in children's education in primary schools. However, because this project was foreign funded, there was no continuous funding to ensure sustainability. When the government of Uganda provided us this opportunity, we came in to take on and follow up on this project so that we can introduce sustainability. So the main objective of this project, Resilient Communities, was to introduce that aspect of resilience among the communities to sustain their participation in the children's education for quality primary education. So we adopted a participatory action research methodology together with the change agent approach. And we implemented this project in Mayuge and Nakaseke districts in a total of 6 schools. We worked with these change agents who we identified together with the community from within. They appointed them because they trust them, and we together reviewed the current debates, the current practices in parental and community participation in children's education, and together we came up with key messages that need to be spread among the parents and communities so that the children can be supported. These change agents were capacitated by way of training, which we did, and we developed the training manuals together with them, the training information together with them, and we commissioned them to start popularizing these messages among the communities and among the fellow parents. In this study, we realized that the key messages, which were 6 from the previous project, were all still pertinent and relevant. It is only that the change agents then were not yet using them. They had abandoned them, and they needed some kind of beefing up. So we beefed them up with current information that needed to be provided to the parents. But also 4 key areas emerged which were new, and that was the issue of male involvement. The men were not involved in their children's education. They were leaving it to the mothers. Then the environment at home, because a child needs to be warmly handled at home for them to concentrate. The aspect of teacher and parent collaboration, the relationship, and in the course of implementing this project, we were engulfed by COVID-19, and never like now, the parents are in a position now to use the materials while at home and also protect these children from pregnancy and so on. We have come to realize that the change agent approach is capable of building this resilience among the communities and parents to support the children. We came up with several materials which the change agents are using. As you can see, the handbooks for the key messages translated in Luganda and Lusoga, a mural summarizing the 10 messages, and training manuals alongside posters that can be used. 2 key aspects that we will be happy to share with the Ministry of Education and Sports through the policy briefs that we have developed. One is to emphasize the role of parents in their children's education. That is key in their performance. And number 2, to strengthen the nexus between the child, who is the pupil, the parent, and the teacher. And of course, the link between the schools and the communities that host them. Thank you very much. That is what we have to give to you.
Yeah. That was superb. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mukisa. And now we'll go right away. We're going to have a fast flight straight. Now I want to invite Dr. Tom Baloja to come and take us through. And I like the way time has been respected before, and I think you're going to move in that. Tom.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Museveni, the Chairperson Council, Mrs. Rona Magara, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Chairperson Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. My name is Tom Darlington Baloja, the principal investigator of this project concerning about enhancing 19 lockdown, underscoring Chotera district rural places. We worked with my colleague Dr. Dorothy Chagaba, but also teamed up with district officials of Chotera district, as you can see. This project is coming out of the need that happened when when government locked down educational institutions, and came up with an idea of continued learning during the lockdown by coming up with radio lessons, televisions, and distribution of materials to children and students. We noticed that given the statistics by Uganda Bureau of Statistics, we noted that radio coverage is low and even television coverage stood at only 19%. But more so, even learning materials for some parents could not be interpreted. And for local communities, thematic curriculum could not be favored because in local communities we emphasize local languages, but the materials were in English. So we came up with this project to extend learning with the purpose of facilitating effective learning in rural contexts by, number one, record electronic lessons which can easily be relayed to learners using voices recorded. Then to store these lessons electronically, relay the lessons to learners using most appropriate and user-friendly technology or a device in a particular rural context, and to also monitor learning from homes by local teachers cognizant of the need to respect standard operating procedures of COVID-19. The methodology we used was basically action participatory design, basing on themes of electronic lessons and delivering them based on a device that is mostly used in that community, which are loudspeakers when communicating to the public. So we had teachers who recorded lessons, and there were 16. And we also had owners of these loudspeakers who mounted them and delivered these lessons. We also had experts who were teachers in those rural places, those rural villages, and the learners from those places, and we targeted 11 villages, targeting P1 up to Senior 3. So data on quality of lessons and learning was analyzed through use of a multiplicity of methods, especially simple descriptive analysis, but qualitatively oriented. As you can see, the lessons developed were 168 electronically developed for primary section, and 126 for Senior 1 up to Senior 3, basing on the learning materials which had been distributed by the Ministry of Education and Sports during the period June to September 2020. We also came up with that timetable, which had a 260 minutes teaching timetable using 4.3 or 4 hours and 30 minutes in the 24 days in which the project was implemented in the 3 months. We delivered lessons, and some of those children, you can see in one of the photographs, one child is supporting the colleague in learning as they are listening. And in another one, the expert teacher is trying to guide some of the children who were learning, and you can see the real context of a village. We deployed experts in each of the 11 villages, and we also reviewed, were able to provide lessons on memory cards and memory sticks to some of the parents who wanted them, and in this, they were able even to rewind these lessons. So we came up with a 3 blocks model, which we call localized electronic learning model, which is based on preparatory stage, individual learning stage, and assessment stage. And those are the ways how it moves. There is mobilization of resources, record electronic lessons, edit these lessons, and draw a timetable and arrange the lessons under the preparatory stage. You, in this individual learning stage, you relay the lessons using any method that is most appropriate. It can be radios, screens, speakers, or even headphones, as long as a memory card or a flash disk can enter there. Then you can be able to rewind lessons at any time of your wish, where you have not been able to understand, unlike the radio or a television which runs through. And therefore, remedial and diagnostic learning can easily be implemented. This can be supported by use of quasi-teachers and retired teachers in villages to support this learning process. And therefore, we can even use it when schools open to support the large numbers which can come up. So the assessment can be done by the quasi-teachers with the support of expert teachers, and therefore assess progress of learning and report accordingly. What do we recommend? That government, parents, and leaders could possibly comprehensively support this kind of learning for children while at home, but even when the schools open. And the government can facilitate the project to develop lessons based on the entire curriculum of the academic year, and you be used in learning for all schools. So when schools open, these recorded lessons can be used by teachers to even improve on learning skills and buttress learning, especially where there are large classes, and for learners to revise. This can be enhanced with the support of quasi-teacher teaching and diagnostic learning. I thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Darlington, and I think that is done. But now I'm not inviting anyone else other than Michael, my neighbor right here. And there's been a timekeeper, and I'm going to do it. We want only 5 minutes, Michael. Take the floor.
The First Lady, Honorable Minister of Education, Honorable Janet Museveni, the Chair Council, Mrs. Lona Magara, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Chairperson, Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeyo. Ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. When COVID hit us, we went straight into innovation, into contributing to the leadership in innovations at MAK-RIF University. And my name is Michael Walimbwa. I led that team. And we were mapping the capacity of MAK-RIF University to mainstream e-learning in university education during the pandemic. The pandemic taught us so many things, but it had to teach us the hard lessons of being electronically ready. And because of being ready, we needed to go into the spaces that were virtual. So there were no more physical spaces that were in there. So the hitherto face-to-face spaces were given up, and we had to go electronic. But we wanted to ensure that MAK-RIF is ready and is leading this innovation so well. So we went out to discovered that at the end of it all, even after the pandemic, we had to go remain electronic. And therefore, we went into this to look at issues of examining how MAK-RIF and stakeholders were aware about the electronic learning policies and practices. We also wanted to assess how these policy frameworks are supporting the operation of e-learning. We wanted even to see things of availability, functionality, and preparedness of the e-learning infrastructure. We also wanted to look at the gaps that were available. And we went through the 10 constituent universities of the, colleges of this university. We took a survey. We had qualitative data from interviews. We also looked at issues. We looked at literature, and we came up with the following findings. There is a framework in this university that guides effective operation of e-learning. The stakeholders are aware of this framework. This policy framework supports the implementation of e-learning properly. There is also initial availability of the technology devices, except that these technology devices are the static ones. You find computers in the lab, and yet we are going to mobile learning. We are also looking at, we also found out that the lecturers and students have the initial skills and knowledge to engage in e-learning. Now, the gap we found was there was limited technology devices and internet connectivity to enable full engagement in e-learning. And what we recommend are this. We are looking at e-learning as a dynamic and fast-changing environment, and therefore we need to also change the policies to cater for this dynamism. We are looking at the numbers of students that are available on the mobile platforms are many, and therefore we have to provide e-learning infrastructure that provides for mobile and mobile learning facilities. We are looking at investing and skilling in order to catch up with the very flexible e-learning. We need to continue investing in mobile, skilling of lecturers and students. And we are also looking at the private-public partnership as one way of ensuring that people are enjoying e-learning. And we are saying that that public-private partnership has been exhibited already. We have got MTN and other telephone networks being able to zero-rate our services, and our websites at MAK-RIF University, and therefore some people are enjoying some of the things. But we are saying the resources we have are not enough to do a lot of that. We are asking for more in terms of budget. I submit. Thank you very much.
Yes, Michael, yeah, you're a very good timekeeper. Thank you very much. I now have none other than Dr. Ronald Bisaso, who is right here. And I think he's going to display it superbly. Now, the floor is yours.
The First Lady, Honorable Janet Museveni, the Chair Council, Mrs. Rona Magara, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Chairperson, Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeo, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I am Ronald Bisaso, and the principal investigator with a team highlighted on this slide, where we deal with pedagogical leadership for academic staff in higher education institutions to enhance graduate work readiness and transition to work. Graduate employability skill deficiency has gained currency. Sometimes we see our graduates holding placards asking what next. And this has been buttressed by information that employers find pre-labor education of our graduates insufficient. But one may also think that perhaps the covenant between education and employment seems broken. And we have seen write-ups like, after university, what next? But there is also some argument that there is a weak link between university training curricula and the employer's expectations. But what do we have as higher education institutions? Our thinking is that I think the academic staff are key stakeholders in ensuring that employability is enhanced. But of recent, we have also read that we do not teach this at the university. A very illuminating title. But what do we discover? We discover that pedagogical skills development programs for academic staff barely link disciplinary content and pedagogy to graduate work readiness and transition to work. And this is the pain point. So from the confessions of a university don, we don't teach that at the university. We then sought to get the generous support from the government of Uganda through MAK-RIF University Research and Innovations Fund. We were funded to specifically pay attention to the development of the capacities of staff to embed graduate work readiness and transition to work so that we address the pain point of graduate skill deficiency. I should state that this work was done in a multi-stakeholder dimension. We therefore engaged with the National Council for Higher Education, the National Planning Authority, to find some steps forward to addressing the challenge of graduate work readiness and transition to work. And during this multi-stakeholder partnership, we also paid attention to the areas of excellence within the economy that are based on the National Council for Higher Education Tracer Study of 2019. All this was done in order for us to have a multidimensional understanding of this challenge of graduate and employability. We then, of course, generated project results out of this collaborative engagement to find solutions to this problem. But we must recall that the academic staff are critical in terms of generating the philosophy, in terms of the pedagogy, in terms of the curriculum. And this curriculum should embed the ideals of graduate work readiness, hence this research-directed engagement. We therefore sought to establish the curriculum mapping perspectives. And what clearly emerges is that that weak link is very evident. But most importantly, there is need to strengthen partnerships. We looked at the academic staff competence profile. In this university, a unit was established in 1979, and we certainly looked at the line of argument that how do we then develop capacities of staff? The university invested quite heavily in 2018, but this was on a small scale. And so this project came in to scale up this and also embed graduate work readiness. This is what the academic staff said when we asked them where the challenges were. They indicated that they were less confident that they teach problem solving, but they were able to assess it. They highlighted some of the non-placement activities that you can carry on campus, but which were considered less important. And therefore, this spoke directly to the whole notion of we do not teach this at the university. But we also reached out to the pedagogical leadership facilitators who were participating in the 2018 pedagogical skills workshops. And they indicated that during and post-COVID, we actually need some skill sets, including competence-based curriculum development, authentic curriculum design, multimodal assessment, and thankfully, the university has taken up this. But we will need training over and over again as academic staff here and beyond. We then asked the employers what requirements. They indicated that they really wanted their graduates to be able to deal with problem solving. But important on this slide, we discover that they expect graduates who can identify personal skills and how they can be deployed. The employers we were dealing with were in the fields of agriculture, engineering, education, and development studies. The graduates expressed their respective attributes. But what is key is that the skills they found most important were developing initiative and enterprise by being creative in addressing challenges. And indeed, this we can already see a graduate of agriculture in the garden being interviewed. The way forward. This project's output, key output, was a program that would sustainably develop the capacities of academic staff in work-integrated learning. This has been developed in form of a postgraduate diploma in higher education pedagogy. We look forward to course enhancement processes. And we also expect institutions to adopt a work-integrated learning curriculum model. And this is in line with the National Development Plan 3. And finally, we expect universities to integrate employability standards and guidelines by collaborating with the accreditation agencies so that the programs that we develop pay attention to the pain point of graduate work readiness and transition to work. As we conclude, we generated a framework, which we call the Plasherville framework, which clearly indicates the need for all stakeholders to collaborate because the issues of graduate work readiness and transition to work cannot be left to a single stakeholder. And the only link between the university and the respective stakeholders is work-integrated learning, where academic staff can even have the opportunity to have sabbaticals in the practice world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ronald. And he's touched home. He's been home. Honorable Minister has been home. He's been looking at the people at home, the lecturers. And now I have the honor to invite the Deputy Principal, who is Mr. Bodaman, who is to look at the pedagogical leadership. He's going to using blended learning to fast-track capacity development for teacher implementing the lower secondary school curriculum. Yes, the time is yours, and borders are faster. They don't waste time.
Thank you so much, MC. I am not presenting on the border project. It was exhibited, but I'm presenting on another project. The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, Chairperson, Makerere University Council, Mrs. Lona Magara, Vice Chancellor, Makerere University, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the University Secretary, Mr. Yusuf Chiranda, Chairperson of the GMC, Professor William Bazeo, my boss, my principal, College of Education and External Studies, Professor Masaze, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. My name is Paul Virevo Muyinda, the Deputy Principal of the College of Education and External Studies, and also the chairperson of the task force set up by Makerere University to fast-track the implementation of e-learning, implementation of ODEL at Makerere University during the COVID-19 pandemic times and beyond. So I am here to present a project on using blended learning to fast-track capacity development for teachers implementing the lower secondary school curriculum. This team was originally led by Professor Jessica Aguti, who left the university, but we are currently transitioning the PI leadership to Dr. Godfrey Mayende, who is the current acting director of the Institute of Open Distance and E-Learning. Dear participants, the aim of this project was actually to support the government initiative, the Ministry of Education initiative or transformation of changing the lower secondary school curriculum. And so we are coming in to see how we can be able to quicken the adoption by teachers of the lower secondary school curriculum. We know that the teachers, lower secondary school teachers, they have capacity to teach, but we wanted to really find out, determine whether these teachers actually can be able to quickly roll out the lower secondary school curriculum, and so find the gaps where we can come in and support the Ministry of Education and Sports in reaching out to all the teachers within the shortest possible time. We also wanted to establish the infrastructure for doing this and then be able to adopt the curriculum which the National Curriculum Development Center and the Ministry of Education and Sports was using to train teachers to adopt this new curriculum. So we had to adapt that curriculum into a blended learning format or an e-learning format so that then we can be able to reach out to almost all the teachers at the same time. We also wanted to train mentors who would also be able to assist us in the field in trying to use blended learning to have our teachers adopt the new curriculum. So we, because we are few and the time was not enough for us to cover the whole country, we had to use 18 schools in 2 regions, that is Soga region and then Soroti, and we used an innovative design methodology to develop this, transform the curriculum into a blended learning curriculum, and then we reach out to the teachers. We are using blended learning strategies such as face-to-face learning management system, teacher meetings, mobile learning, e-conferencing, mentor-mentee meetings, and we have so far organized 80 meetings because this is still an ongoing program. The expected outcome is that we expect to have continuous professional development for teachers, not only for the new curriculum, but also for other professional development. Achievements so far, we have been able to hold a stakeholders meeting, we have been able to undertake a needs assessment, and we have the gaps, and we have been able to redesign the existing curriculum into blended learning curriculum. The way forward is that we are going to use continuous professional development, which is based on mobile learning, blended learning, to reach out to the teachers. Then we want also to train teachers on basic ICTs for implementing the curriculum, and mentoring as a major strategy for continuous professional development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Muyinda. And now, here we go. Honorable Minister, we are going science now. The man standing here is Dr. Busulwa, who's going to take us through the interdisciplinary enhancement of science education in the Uganda primary thematic curriculum. Dr. Busulwa, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, MC, Honorable Minister of Education, Chairperson of the Council, Vice Chancellor, distinguished participants here and virtual ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make a presentation of the disciplinary enhancement of science education in the primary education curriculum. Government has made tremendous efforts to promote science, and this is a positive contribution to motivate learners into science education. As you're aware, science experts and graduates are even paid more, and our science secondary school curriculum is a compulsory science education curriculum. So, but our scientists are still few. So we looked for a solution to why we still have these few scientists coming out of the tertiary institutions. As you were that tertiary institutions graduates consist of fewer scientists than other disciplines. So we thought that the government had made an initiative in 2005 to start the thematic curriculum, which was conceived and implemented in 2007. Thematic curriculum is based on the idea that learners acquire knowledge best when they connect what they learned with real environment. So the primary schools were now divided into the lower primary, the transitional primary, which is P4, lower primary from P1 to P3, and then the upper primary from P5 to P7. And in order to articulate issues, the lower primary was supposed to be instructed in local languages. So we're looking at how the instruction of science could be done in the local language. And we went out with this team and assessed the teaching of science using the thematic curriculum, but we could not go all over the country. We concentrated on central and eastern Uganda primary schools, and then investigate some concepts in learning in terms of local languages. How could it be used to instruct science? And then appraise the importance of folklore. Folklore is the culture of songs, poems, and so on. The methodology we used two tools, the questionnaire and the focus group discussion using the design-based approach. The questionnaire was for teachers, and design-based approach, and the interviews were for elders, so that we can capture many terms that we need for science education. The results were, although 92% of the teachers were introduced through retooling in the thematic curriculum, and a few of them, 8%, passed out through the PTC colleges. A majority of teachers found challenges in integrating science in the thematic curriculum. Few of them who were trained are still in the system, but those who are graduating from PTCs are deployed in transitional class P4 and upper primary. So there's no capacity building from the ones in the thematic curriculum. Learning focuses mostly on literacy and numeracy than science, because the teachers and learners and their parents know little terms in local languages to use for teaching science. Learning materials are mostly in English, and the teacher has to translate them in their own understanding to the local language. So the learners in the lower primary actually do not know that they are learning science, because the subjects there are literacy 1, literacy 2, English, and then numeracy. And then the teachers in some schools, therefore, to teach the science as if it was like it was done in the previous curriculum. So with the difficulties they are finding, they think the teachers have suggested that it would be good to tease out the science and it's being taught separately. So only a few teachers can comfortably use the local language, and only 4% can integrate the science in literacy. During the process of integrating science in those subjects, there's confusion between literacy and numeracy. And then there's also another issue, that the construction of sentences through preparation, I mean lessons, cannot be possible because parents have a negative attitude towards learning in the local languages. So, but there are many science concepts that still exist in the local languages, and we try to capture many of them. And we think for science in the thematic curriculum, there is still a challenge in its implementation. So, our recommendations, we think that science should be taught from P1 as a separate subject. The delayed start of teaching science during the transition start class impacts on learners' choice as they progress in their education. Teacher education should emphasize skills to integrate science, and the science in the folklore should also be analyzed and integrated. Continuous development of science education materials in local languages should be done in partnerships with language boards. And devote time to teacher preparation, because teachers have little time to prepare lessons, and there is a policy brief which has been circulated to aid and enhance in the learning of science in primary schools. These are some of the materials we have developed as interventions, and we have developed them in 2 languages. To start with, the body parts, which you know that we all learn about when we are still in primary schools. And then the second one is parts of the plants. I have just selected a few. We have incorporated some of these in a book, which we are going to roll out. I will end here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Busurwa, and that is science. Now, our guest of honor, Mama, we are coming to the climax of our ceremony, where I would want to invite directly the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, to come and give the remarks. Professor Barnabas, you're welcome.
Our guests of honor, the Honorable Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, the Chairperson of Council, Mrs. Lona Magara, all of you, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of MAK University management and staff, I welcome you, Mama Janet, to this very important event, the virtual open day of the College of Education and External Studies, which is also your alma mater. I thank you for finding time in your extremely busy schedule at this time when you are faced with challenges brought by COVID-19 to the education sector, to officiate at this open day. We are immensely honored by your participation. Welcome home. Let me immediately take this opportunity to thank you for your support in obtaining cabinet approval of funds to reconstruct our iconic and historic main building. I also welcome our chairperson of council, Mrs. Lona Magara, and thank you, Mrs. Magara, for making the time, like you have always done for similar events of the university, to participate in this open day. I welcome all the participants. Honorable Minister, when I was looking for the job of Vice Chancellor, my slogan was unlocking the potential of MAK-RIF University. I am sure now my colleagues are asking themselves, where were we all this time? MAK-RIF University is undergoing a tremendous transformation. We are into 1 year of implementing the new 10-year strategic plan, which was approved by Council last year, with the major aim of making MAK-RIF a research-led university. Already, thanks to the enormous support by government through the Research and Innovation Fund and the Presidential Initiative on Science and Epidemics, giant steps have been taken towards our set goal. The two interventions by government have enabled us to improve our research infrastructure and to avail research funds to our researchers. Practically every college, school, and department is now engaged in research and development activities thanks to the Research and Innovation Fund. I join my colleagues in thanking you, Honorable Minister, and the entire government, that even in the midst of the challenges posed by COVID-19, you still gave us money for research. This is testimony of the importance the government attaches to research, and we thank you very much. There is indeed a revolution at MAK-RIF, and we thank the government for the support. Thanks to the interventions by Preside, MAK-RIF University now boasts of some of the best laboratory research infrastructure, including the high-precision electronic microscope, one of only 4 on the entire African continent and the only one in our region. These heavy investments pose a huge challenge to us as researchers to double our efforts in finding solutions to problems that hinder our socio-economic development. I am happy to report, Honorable Minister, that MAK-RIF researchers are equal to the challenge, as has been demonstrated by the more than 700 research and innovation projects funded through the Research and Innovation Fund. Our main challenge now is to establish a science and technology park, which will enable us to transform all these wonderful innovations into commercial products, companies, and jobs for our youth. We seek government support in this venture. I pray for you, Mama, that your initiatives for HASTE 3 and the proposed loan from the Korean Exim Bank, which you championed yourself, will come to fruition to enable MAK-RIF realize her strategy. I need to inform the MAK-RIF community here today that our minister championed a cause of transforming MAK-RIF University to be a modern 21st century university. Honorable Minister, the College of Education and External Studies is central to what we do as a university. Thanks to a vibrant faculty at the college, we have managed to push forward despite the menace of the COVID-19 pandemic. We pride in having the best open, distance, and e-learning human resource and infrastructure at any university in our region. We are happy to share the expertise developed at MAK-RIF with our sister universities in Uganda, and we have indeed started doing this. The 7 research projects disseminated today are proof that we have enormous capacity to finding solutions to the challenges that face our education system, right from pre-primary to universities, especially in the wake of COVID-19. Indeed, it is not only the 7 projects, but even the projects that were displayed on the posters. They are a testimony that we are ready to assist our country to face the challenges that COVID-19 has brought to our education sector. I wish to renew our call to government to fund graduate students. This will enable our country to develop faster. Honorable Minister, MAK-RIF is ready to support you in your enormous task of enabling recovery of the education sector from the effects of COVID-19. And I would like to believe that the presentations that you have listened to and seen are testimony to that readiness. Our success would not have been possible without the unenduring support of you, our very hardworking minister. You have guided and encouraged us, and we are very grateful for your support. Without the support and guidance of the University Council, we would not have made these achievements, and we are grateful to the chairperson and members of council for the stewardship we enjoy. Let me end my remarks, Honorable Minister, by congratulating the College of Education and External Studies on this achievement. You are indeed on the move to a research-led college. We are committed to being the engine of development for our beloved country, and we do pledge our total commitment, Honorable Minister, to our country. It is now my privilege and honor to invite the Chairperson of Council, Mrs. Lona Magara, to address us and invite you to address us. Thank you all for your attention.
The First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Kataham 7, or online, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, and members of the University Management, the Chairperson of Research and Innovations Fund, Professor William Bazeo, the Principal, College of Education and External Studies, Professor Masagazi Masazi, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, I warmly welcome you to the open day of the College of Education and External Studies of MAK-RIF University, where you're a treasured alumna. Welcome home, Mama, albeit virtually. Like Professor Bazeo mentioned about his colleague, I think Professor Nawangwe actually had a peep at my speech. And so I will make my comments brief, since most of what I had hoped to say is already said. I wish to thank you most sincerely, Mama, for your charismatic leadership of Uganda's education sector during the difficult times of COVID-19. MAK-RIF University is particularly grateful for your unconditional support, which has enabled us to reach new heights. The open day we are participating in today is possible due to the government of Uganda funding of research and innovations at MAK-RIF University to a tune of 30 billion shillings annually. This makes the government of Uganda the leading funder of research in this country, and we thank the government very much. I also wish to report that the University Council meeting held yesterday, October 6th, resolved to thank you, Mama, for your unconditional support. The Council particularly appreciated your efforts in mobilizing Cabinet to approve the 22 billion towards restoring the main administration building. May I please request you to convey a heartfelt thanks to His Excellency the President with whom you continue to serve as torchbearers in developing higher education in Uganda. Mama, during the several interactions you and His Excellency the President have accorded to the university leadership, you have challenged universities to be centers of research and innovations that provide homegrown solutions to African challenges. Education that does not impact its society and community is really not an education system worth its name. And so I wish to reiterate that MAK-RIF University takes this guidance seriously and has embarked on the journey to be a research-led institution and a knowledge hub in the heart of Africa. The University Council kickstarted this journey by enacting a new strategic plan with a goal to turn around MAK-RIF into a research university that responds to the needs of the communities, the needs of government, and the needs of industry. Presently, MAK-RIF University researchers are at the forefront of several innovations in teaching and learning, agriculture, engineering, health, and including the national response to COVID-19. I wish to reiterate further that this is possible because government has motivated our scholars with better pay and recognition and has provided funding for research and innovations. These are great times to be a researcher in Uganda because there is a government that believes in the worth and value of African scholars and is committed to supporting them to research and innovate and provide space for their ideas to be tried and tested. The College of Education and External Services has been a center of excellence in pedagogy since the founding of the School of Education. Presently, we have challenged the college to deliver research and innovations that prepare responsive professionals for the emerging realities in teaching and learning, including globalization and technology and the COVID-19 situation. I can say that they have responded well. At MAK-RIF University, we've relied on the college for leadership for the Institute of Open and Distance Learning, which has delivered the blended learning model, which enabled us to continue teaching and students' assessment during the COVID-19 lockdown. I'd like to challenge them further to now begin looking critically at how to scale this across the country where we do not have as much internet, where we do not have as much IT facilities, so that even the child in the rural areas is able to continue learning with whatever has been made, government has provided them with. MAK-RIF University Council is committed to facilitating scalable innovations that can support other institutions and sectors. Mama, we believe in delivering higher education as a partnership amongst various institutions and stakeholders. The partnership approach will be crucially important as we transition into the new normal occasioned by COVID-19, especially amongst public universities that draw funding from the same source. For example, MAK-RIF University spends around 1.5 billion shillings towards electronic library resources, and I assume other public universities spend on these resources as well. A partnership approach could provide ways of having these electronic library resources shared amongst universities. Honorable Minister, I believe that delivering education under the difficult times we face must be a collective effort. Under the e-learning model, there are several opportunities for collaboration amongst universities, amongst the Ministry of Education, district local governments, and religious institutions to leverage the competences and capacities of each other and make sure that Ugandans continue to learn despite the COVID-19 challenges. Once again, Mama, thank you very much for honoring this occasion with your presence. It is now my greatest honor and delight to invite you to address us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. Chairperson of University Council, Mrs. Lorna Magara, and Council members present, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, and members of University Management, the Chairperson of the Grants Management Committee, Professor William Bazeyo, a Principal of College of Education and External Studies, Professor Masagazi Masazi, and the college leadership team present today, and Professor Mugaga, the patriot. I am so honored to be present here today. It is a pleasure for me to join you for this College Open Day organized by the leadership of the College of Education and External Studies to showcase research projects funded by the government of Uganda through MAK-RIF University Research and Innovations Fund. I must congratulate you for this well thought out idea of an open day to share the outcome of your research with the public and provide accountability for the resources you received to do research. I have been quite impressed and humbled to learn of such good work that is being done by you at the College of Education. I have noted with appreciation that the projects showcased today cover a wide range of education concerns that the country is struggling with related to homeschooling, effective teaching and learning, enhancement of science education, implementation of the thematic curriculum, use of mobile and e-learning, among other important areas of research. All these are topical issues whose research findings and recommendations will truly help inform improvements in delivery of service in the education sector. I'm also extremely pleased to note that the College of Education and External Studies, through the Institute of Open Distance and E-Learning, has been building staff and student capacity in the application of ODEL pedagogy in the entire university. As a ministry, we applaud you for this initiative, and I urge you to extend the expertise in ODEL beyond MAK-RIF University to benefit the other higher education institutions in need of this knowledge and expertise, as the chair of council has just said. You all now know that we are operating in a very fragile environment brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to normalize the education system, we must work together and share resources to solve the challenges that have greatly affected our education system as a result of this pandemic. Government, and in particular the Ministry of Education and Sports, is prepared to learn from the scientific explanations generated through your research and innovations and do what it takes to recover what we have lost. Government is committed to supporting research and innovations in universities, as you really now know, to provide high-quality data to inform policy decisions. I want to encourage you now to make sure that you prioritize projects that are crucial to social and economic transformation, and those multi-sectoral projects which cover a wide spectrum of development issues and have significant impact in the country. As a College of Education and External Studies, research in education is key, and I encourage you to do as much research as possible into issues that you know affect education, its managers, and the teachers. We are all aware that in order to transform this sector, there is need to generate interventions focusing on the teacher. Therefore, research in teacher education is one of the most important focus areas at this time when we have made teacher issues to deal with. We have so many. And I was really impressed to hear you mention many, not a few, many issues that we deal with all the time. And I was interested to listen somebody talking about teaching of science in local language. I think it is time that we find a way to bring out those issues in science that make sense to each child at a primary level in their mother tongue. That's when science will make sense to us and will become transformational when we really get involved in primary teaching science in the mother tongue. Not just a folklore, but talking about issues that are truly important for teaching science, but when you bring it in the mother tongue, then it becomes real and it becomes meaningful, and then perhaps then we can have more scientists in our society. I also commend the college for the support it has provided to the Ministry of Education and Sports in various thorough and expertise ways for many of its staff. I'm aware of the individual and institutional contribution and participation in development and review of curricula at various levels, the development of national teacher policy, the development of the early childhood development framework, support to establishment of Uganda National Institute of Teacher Education, as well as the support in the ongoing development of the digital agenda for the education and sports sector. The ministry appreciates all these contributions, and I call upon you to continue supporting the ministry in all possible ways. For a strong ministry, you must understand, a strong Ministry of Education is a strong sector of the national education throughout the country. Lastly, I commend the management of MAK-RIF University Research and Innovation Fund for the good work they are doing in identifying potential projects with capacity to influence development decisions. The showcase projects are testimony that the funds are being properly utilized, and it is my prayer that universities continue to do more and indeed live the purpose for which they exist as knowledge hubs for development. I applaud the University Council and management for the good work they are doing in supporting continuity of learning for university students. Let us all join hands to mobilize our learners and staff to get vaccinated so that as the university opens in a staggered manner from 1st of November, we are all safe and protected. Government will continue looking for resources to support interventions to ensure education returns to normalcy when it is possible to do so. I now must congratulate you once again for organizing this open day to share what you are doing for the benefit of education stakeholders. It is again my prayer that this becomes a regular practice so that more people benefit from the outcome of your research and from your expertise. And of course, it is a smart idea to account for the funds that have come to you by showing what it has done for the country. I must again say that I trust God that in His time, I'll get the time to come to you in person to see what you are doing at the college. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mama. And join me in, I'm going to put our hands together and thank our chief guest, Mama, for having given us this special time. Can we all? We want to thank you because she has spoken. I don't think I can put forward any other prayer because the prayers have been put forward. But it's been worth attending, and we want to thank you so much. We together with the Minister of Education will continue to be in the struggle to make sure that we rejuvenate the education sector and that the education sector becomes revived with support of research. I now call upon the time events to take us through the anthems. Shall we rise up?
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for coming. And the principal will now carry the VC together with Professor William to leave at leisure. We want to thank you again and for working with the College of Education and External Studies. Together we shall stand. I want also to recognize the chair, Mwasa, who's just been with us, Dr. Kamonyu. Thank you for being with us as well. We want a group picture. Professor Masagazi and his deputy, please guide the Vice Chancellor for a group picture right there. A group picture with the Vice Chancellor and outside. Oh, he's gone, and thank you. I think that's right. Thank you very much. You can back at the team, we are going to take them.